On a cold February morning in 2021, two lorries rolled into a quiet London warehouse carrying crates of bananas from Colombia. But hidden in 4 of those crates wasn't just fruit, it was 2.3 tons of cocaine worth over £200 million. The man waiting to receive them? A former food importer turned ghost-level kingpin named Petko Zhutev, and what he didn't know was that the entire shipment had already been intercepted. The clock was ticking, and the empire he thought he built was already crumbling. Agro-Food Limited had been a quiet, legitimate produce import company for 5 years. It brought in fresh fruits and vegetables from overseas, operated like any normal supplier, and never raised a single red flag. That is, until December 30, 2020, when a new name suddenly appeared on the books. Petko Zhutev. He wasn't from the industry. He wasn't a grocer. He wasn't even from the UK. He was a 39-year-old Bulgarian national who had entered the country just a few weeks prior. And the moment he took control of Agro-Food, the business changed direction, fast. He rented a warehouse in Tottenham, installed refrigeration units, bought forklifts, ordered high-visibility jackets for workers, and made one more subtle but telling move. He switched the company's phone system to untraceable Dutch SIM cards. By all outward appearances, Agro-Food was still just another grocery distributor. But behind the glass walls and fresh produce labels, a new kind of operation was being built. One meant to move something far more profitable than bananas. And Zhutev wasn't doing it alone. He surrounded himself with a small crew. Most of them were Albanian. Men like Muci, a plumber-turned-organizer who prosecutors later said was directing shipments and sales across North and East London. Then there was Bruno Cusi, described as a trusted member of the warehouse team, and Georgi Diko, a mechanic who helped maintain the equipment. Also Ebeja played the role of lookout and driver. By January 2021, less than a month after Zhutev took control of the business, the team was ready to begin testing the pipeline. They sent 3 banana shipments from Colombia. No cocaine. Just trial runs, dry rehearsals to see how customs responded. The first was rejected. The second went through. And with that, the green light was on. The next shipment wouldn't just be bananas. But what none of them realized was that their success was already being watched. And their 4th shipment, the one they believed would change everything, would become the thing that destroyed them. We'll get to that in a moment. It started like any other shipment. A container left Turbo, Colombia, on January 26, 2021. 41 pallets of bananas were loaded into a steel container, locked tight and bound for the UK. But tucked inside 4 of those pallets, so well hidden they might have passed through unnoticed, were 2,330 blocks of cocaine. Roughly 2.3 tons of pure Class A product, destined for the streets of London. Each block weighed around a kilo. Some bore gang-branded stamps, silent signatures from the criminal organizations who'd already claimed them. The packaging wasn't sloppy, it was surgical. Color-coded, sealed, hidden among the fruit like ghosts in daylight. This wasn't random smuggling. This was logistics with military precision. Street value? £200 million, once cut and diluted. Enough for over 2 million individual deals. But the men behind this plan, Petko Zhutev, Muci, and their crew, had no idea they'd made one critical mistake. Someone was already watching. The UK Border Force had intercepted intelligence before the container ever touched British soil. When it arrived at Portsmouth International Port on February 14, they didn't wait. They opened the shipment quietly. No headlines. No alarms. Just silent professionals at work. They found the 4 pallets, marked with orange stickers. Pulled every last block of cocaine. Replaced them with bananas. And then, they went even further. They bugged the crates, hid microphones inside the boxes, and sealed the container back up. The shipment was now a trap, and the gang was still expecting it. What happened next wasn't a takedown. It was a performance. A staged delivery by undercover officers playing the role of lorry drivers, pulling straight into the lion's den with a £200 million lie packed in fruit crates. And the gang? They had no clue they were walking straight into it. By the way, if you would love to know more about UK underworld crimes, check out other videos in this channel. February 18, 2021. 4 days after the cocaine was secretly swapped out, 2 lorries backed into a quiet industrial unit in Tottenham's Kingpin industrial estate. The men behind the wheel weren't traffickers. They were undercover officers, posing as drivers wearing high-vis jackets, playing the part perfectly. Inside the warehouse, Petko Zhutev was waiting. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't nervous. He was in control. This was supposed to be the moment everything clicked. The moment £200 million worth of product arrived safely into his hands. Beside him were Bruno Muci and Georgi Diko, part of the crew. They'd already set up the place. Bought refrigeration units. Rented forklifts. Even installed laminated glass to keep outsiders from peeking inside. This wasn't just a delivery point. It was a processing facility. The moment the crates were unloaded, they sprang into action. They identified the 4 marked pallets, the ones that were supposed to contain the cocaine. They moved them to a private section of the warehouse and began opening boxes. Only, something was off. Bananas. More bananas. All bananas. Where the cocaine was supposed to be, there was just fruit. And the deeper they dug, the worse it got. No blocks. No stamps. No payoff. Just crates. And static, coming from a hidden listening device they couldn't see. Then it happened. 2 hours after delivery, the silence broke. Armed police stormed the warehouse, cutting through the door with a circular saw. Petko Zhutev. No time to hide. No time to run. As officers searched the warehouse, they found a loaded revolver hidden above the crates in the ceiling, 6 live rounds ready to fire. They also recovered the electronic key to a flat in Islington, one that would later reveal even more secrets. But while these 3 were caught red-handed, the bigger questions remained. Who was calling the shots? Who organized the shipments? And who was still out there thinking they'd gotten away clean? While 3 members of the crew were sitting in handcuffs at the Tottenham warehouse, the real organizers were still out there, quiet, calculated, and one step removed from the scene. Eric Muci wasn't at the raid. He didn't need to be. He rarely showed his face where things could get messy. Described by prosecutors as one of the key figures in the entire operation, Muci lived a double life. To neighbors, he was just another working man in Hornchurch, Essex, a refugee from Albania who'd made a living as a plumber. But behind the scenes, he was moving something far more dangerous than pipework. He wasn't arrested for 8 months after the warehouse sting. But when police finally knocked on his door, they weren't just looking for a person. They were chasing a pattern. Inside a flat on Caledonian Road, tied to Muci, officers found something chilling: 33 kilograms of cocaine hidden beneath kitchen cabinets. Wholesale value, £1.24 million. Street value? Easily over £2 million. The drugs weren't leftovers. They were inventory. Evidence of an entire system already in motion. One that was likely responsible for multiple past shipments, not just the one that got caught. And then there was Ebeja, the lookout, the driver. The man stationed nearby in a van on the day of the delivery, parked, listening, waiting for instructions that would never come. He wasn't flashy. No big role in planning. But he was trusted to be on standby when £200 million worth of cocaine was supposed to land. That alone told prosecutors everything they needed to know. By the time Ebeja was arrested, investigators had already built the full picture. They had the supply route, the front company, the fake paperwork, the drugs, the weapons, and now the people behind it all. But what came next wouldn't be fast. It would take years of courtroom battles, retrials, and shifting testimonies before justice finally caught up with the entire crew. And when it did, the sentences handed down would shock even seasoned crime reporters. By the time the case reached the Old Bailey, it wasn't just about drugs anymore. It was about proof, role, intent. And whether this gang of 5 had orchestrated the biggest inland cocaine bust in UK history, or if, as some tried to argue, they were just in the wrong warehouse at the wrong time. Georgi Diko was the first to fold. He pleaded guilty back in October 2021, admitting to importing Class A drugs and possessing an illegal firearm and ammunition. Bruno Muci followed in April 2023, taking responsibility for the same charges. Petko Zhutev, on the other hand, fought it. At first, he denied everything. In July 2023, a jury cleared him of the firearm charge, but couldn't decide whether he'd knowingly imported drugs. It was only midway through his retrial in September 2024 that he finally cracked. He pleaded guilty to the importation charge, confirming what investigators had long suspected. He wasn't some innocent logistics man. He was the one waiting to receive £200 million in cocaine, wearing a high-vis vest like it was just another workday. That left Eric Muci and Ebeja. Their trial dragged on for 5 months, with the jury deliberating for 47 hours and 28 minutes. The verdict? Guilty. Muci was convicted of importing and supplying Class A drugs. Ebeja was convicted of importation, but the jury couldn't reach a verdict on the supply charge. The Crown decided not to pursue a retrial. December 3, 2024, sentencing day. The courtroom was silent as Judge Rebecca Trowler KC handed down the numbers. Not one at a time but like dominoes falling one after the other. Eric Muci, 33 years. Petko Zhutev, 27 years. Bruno Cusi, 21 years. Georgi Diko, 18 years. Alci Ebeja, 17 years. In total, 116 years of prison time, handed down in a single afternoon. Judge Trowler called it a sophisticated and well-resourced operation, with international coordination, high-level planning, and clear intent to flood UK streets with dangerous drugs. This wasn't a street-level gang. This was organized crime with a business model. But even with the crew locked up, one question still hung in the air, the biggest one of all. Where did the cocaine actually come from? And why haven't the people behind the Colombian end ever been brought to justice? Even with the gang behind bars, some parts of this story remain unanswered. We still don't know where the cocaine really came from. The shipment originated in Turbo, Colombia, a place known for cartel activity. Many believe the Gulf Clan, one of the largest criminal groups in Colombia, was involved. But no names were mentioned. No suppliers were arrested. It's like that end of the chain disappeared into the fog. That's what makes this operation feel bigger than just 5 men in London. The planning wasn't random. They had color-coded pallets, laminated glass on the warehouse windows, Dutch SIM cards to avoid tracking, and high-vis jackets to blend in with everyday workers. This shipment wasn't just a delivery. It was part of a system, one that runs deep, quiet, and far beyond the streets of London. The cocaine was caught. The crew was taken down. But the network? That part is still moving, just under a different name through a different door. Petko Zhutev's empire rose fast. In less than 2 months, he took over a small fruit company, assembled a team, and linked himself to one of the biggest cocaine shipments the UK had ever seen. It was bold. It was planned. But in the end it was fragile. Because the very thing they built to look legitimate, forklifts, pallets, refrigeration, business papers, is what made them visible. And the moment the cocaine left Colombia, their downfall had already begun. What's left now are prison sentences, unanswered questions, and a reminder that in the world of organized crime, even the most carefully built empires can fall with one wrong shipment. And sometimes, they fall before they even begin.